Have you fallen into the trap of being a customer of the medical industry? You just might have. Take a few minutes to listen to this podcast to answer that question for yourself. Welcome to my podcast, Giving You a Fresh Start After Trauma. I'm Regina Sanchez, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Starting over after trauma can be a blend of real pain and some hope, sadness and then some joy. It's a mixture of moments of faith and then moments of fear. There will be times when you'd rather not remember, but then times of excitement. You may fail along the way, but if you keep moving forward, your discouragement will turn to peace. Some days you may feel like giving up, and other days you're running in your race to victory. That, my friend, is a journey of having a fresh start after trauma. And if you are in any of these places and need some encouragement, you have stopped at the right place. Let's journey together to giving you a fresh start after trauma. Join me now to be revived, rejuvenated, and restored to a place of living free from your past emotional pain. Hi, friends. It's been a while since I have released my podcast, Giving You a Fresh Start After Trauma. Regina Sanchez here, and I'm so glad you've joined us. I'm so glad to be back, actually, and I'm looking forward to moving into this new season of some new writings, new coaching programs, and actually physically a new season, fall. I love the fall time. But I am back. I'm glad to be here, and I have been working on my 12-week coaching program, sort of reworking some things and doing other writings, and then actually taking a little time off for the summer. But I'm here. And today I want to talk to you about something that might be hard to hear, but please stay with me because I don't want you to fall into the trap of being a customer of the medical industry. Or if you already are, I want to help you to get out. So don't let the medical industry make you a customer. That's the topic of this conversation today. Well, do you ever sit back and wonder why our society is getting sicker and sicker? That people are sicker and sicker? I know I do. And it is so on my mind and in my heart that sometimes I battle with having to shut my mouth and not give someone advice on what they're sharing with me. It seems like they've fallen into the plans of the medical industry, and I just want to let them know there's another way. I might not be an expert per se, but I can lead people to a place to dig deeper, to uncover some truths to the lies they've been told. And I just want to help. But sadly, so many times I've been told I'm being judgmental. And that really makes me sad because I'm not judging. I'm in pain watching people suffer for what they're going through or the path they're beginning to go down, this sick care path of our medical industry. And I'm watching them become a customer. And I just want to help and give advice, but I guess not everybody wants to hear it. So let me ask you again. Do you ever wonder why our society is getting sicker and sicker? Well, the reason is simple. The medical industry wants to create diseases and profit off them. And you could be going, whoa, Regina, that's a pretty damning statement. I know, but please stay with me because understand that health and wellness is where I live. It's what I study and learn on a daily basis. I'm not speaking out of ignorance. So stay with me and I'll share the reason why I can make that statement. Now, I understand, and I hope you understand, people don't want to be sick, nor do they want to die early. But the problem is the medical system is rigged against us. Let me say that again. The medical system is rigged against us. But not only the medical system, the food industry as well. So please stay with me. The primary reason we are sick is from our toxic food system and our environment. And then the medical industry makes it worse. There are a number of industries that profit off our sicknesses, just like there are a number of industries and governmental agencies that profit off us being at war. It's sort of a money-grabbing, greedy, hungry system on both fronts. So let me share with you some statistics in our medical industry. Well, do you know that healthcare is the fastest growing industry over AI and technology? And that Americans are getting sicker every year. Patients are getting more depressed. Infertility is on the rise. Life expectancy is going down in our country that spends 2 times more in the medical industry than any other country in the world. 50% of American children are dealing with chronic health issues. 50% of our children. 50 years ago, it was less than 1%. Now, 50% of our children. 74% of Americans are overweight or obese. 50% of children are overweight or obese. And if you ever go back and look at photos from the 60s and the 70s, get a photo of people on the beach back then. You don't see overweight, obese people in the 60s or the 70s. What has happened? 77% of young adults are unfit to serve in the military. 50% of Americans are pre-diabetic or have diabetes type 2. And 30% of teens are pre-diabetic. 18% of teens have fatty liver disease. Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and the elderly. A young adult cancer is up 79%, and cancer rates have increased since the COVID injection. 25% of women are on antidepressant medications. 40% of teens have mental health issues. Autism rates in children are 1 in 36 nationally. 1 in 36. That means 1 out of every 36 children has autism. And in 2000, just 24 years ago, it was 1 in 1,500. And right now in California, it's 1 in 22. What is happening? Infertility is going up 1% a year, and sperm counts are decreasing 50% a year. We have the highest infant mortality rate in the world. There are over 100 medical subspecialties. Pharmaceutical companies are underwriting medical education. Our top medical schools, Harvard and Stanford, are 50% funded by Big Pharma. Medical schools do not require nutrition classes. 80% of students' course loads are on pharmacology. 80%. Doctors are taught to manage their patient that's getting sicker and sicker and not get to the root of their medical issue. They frankly don't have time when doctor visits are, scheduled for 10, 15 minutes. The best thing for the medical industry is a child getting sick. Why? Because when a child gets sick, they can go on a lifetime medication. Then they rack up more comorbidities. They're starting them early. And people aren't necessarily dying. They just are suffering and not living a full, healthy life. I mean, my own dad lived to be almost 93, but he suffered. He lost his legs because of diabetes. He had diabetes. He had heart disease. He was dealing with depression, in and out of some dementia. It was not a great way to live his last 20 years of life. And the thing we need to understand is a lot of these medical conditions that are on the rise are reversible. Diabetes type 2 is reversible. Autoimmune disease is reversible. And these negative medical issues are driven by our toxic food system, our toxic environment, and the medical industry. The minute we're born, we're put on big pharma treadmill. Think about it. The minute a baby is born, they are applied erythromycin ointment on their eyes. This is to prevent chlamydia from affecting the baby. But the crazy thing is that a mother is tested prior to that for chlamydia. So if she doesn't have chlamydia, then why do they need to apply this medication to the baby? Why? Doesn't make sense. Our country's medical training never teaches them how to look at the whole patient. They only focus on their subspecialty. Now, in some ways, that could be good because they become really an expertise in that specific specialty. But the downside is they're not looking at the whole person. I remember taking my kids to the pediatric dentist, and I loved my children's pediatric dentist. But I remember standing at the counter writing a check and making my next appointment. And on the counter was this handout on healthy snacks or safe snacks to feed your children. Well, obviously they were all sugarless snacks, but they were substituted with artificial sweeteners. And so I said to the individuals behind the counter, wow, do you know how harmful giving children sweet and low and aspartame and all these artificial sweeteners, do you know how toxic that is? And her response was, well, we only think about the teeth. And that's been what's been happening for how many years? So they're never trained to look at the whole person. They're only focusing on their subspecialty. They're taught to cut, burn, or poison. They're taught to apply surgery, radiation, or medication. And then they're shown how to bill for all that. The business model for our healthcare system is diagnose, prescribe, and bill. They're not taught to get to the root of why they have their medical condition. And they profit off patients getting sicker, and then they continue down the same path. So how are they making money? Well, let's take an example of a patient with 10 different medical issues. And let me tell you, I experienced with family members that were dealing with similar things. Well, the medical industry will send them to 10 different subspecialties and put them on 10 different medications. But no one pays attention to the side effects of all these medications. So now new medical issues arise, but they only focus on their own specialty and don't consider the other 9 medical issues or the other 9 medications. They don't even know the side effects. Number one, they can't, because there's no way to test a patient A that's on this high blood pressure and this bladder medicine and this heart medication and this antidepressant. There's no way to do a study on the ramifications of the interactions of those medications. It's impossible to find enough people to do a peer review study with that type of cocktail. It's too hard to do, so they don't do it. So they don't look at the other medical issues. They're treating only what their specialty is. So again, healthcare is the largest and the fastest growing industry in the United States. Their mission is to make more profits and have more patients in the system and having more things done for longer periods of time. It is not healthcare per se, but more like manage their care. So, okay, So that's the medical industry. Now let's take a look at some statistics from our food industry. Did you know that the farm industry spends 5 times more in Washington, D.C. with lobbyists than the oil industry? That the food industry, and specifically the processed food industry, was created by the cigarette industry. Okay, stay with me. In the 1990s, the two largest food companies were R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris. And I worked for R.J. Reynolds for a short period of time back in the 80s. In the 1980s, when the Surgeon General said that cigarettes were a problem to our health, these cigarette companies decided to move into the food industry by purchasing food companies. So right before I left R.J. Reynolds in the mid-80s, they had just purchased the company I was working for, which was, it had a food division and an alcohol division. And they bought the company. So now they were starting with the food division, but they also at the time bought Nabisco. And that was a big deal back then. Well, what happened was these cigarette companies shifted their scientists who were making cigarettes addictive to work in the food department. And now they were creating ultra-processed foods and making them addictive. And this is where there was a rise in ultra-processed foods. It's stated that food nowadays is a science experiment. So, when this began to happen, they shifted their lobbying in DC from cigarettes to food. And at this time, they created the food pyramid. Then they paid off the FDA, Harvard, and other agencies to create reports saying that sugar and carbs are good for you and animal-based fats are bad. Do you remember that? I remember walking in my mother-in-law's house one day. This was back in the mid-80s, and she is freaking out about butter. Oh, no more butter. You can't eat butter. Butter's bad for you. Eat margarine. No more butter. I remember this shift happening. So they created the food pyramid telling you sugar and carbs are good for you. That was at the bottom of the food pyramid. Stay away from animal-based fats. And that was the shift into ultra-processed foods. Today, a child's diet is 70% ultra-processed foods. So, what you might ask, what do you mean by ultra-processed foods? It is foods created by scientists to addict children, and for that matter, adults, to these foods. Ultra-processed foods have ingredients that our body is not biologically created to digest. So our bodies, if you have a diet high in ultra-processed foods, you are nutritionally malnourished because you are not getting the nutrition your body needs. Is that why we're sicker? Our bodies are not created to digest ultra-processed foods. The foundation of our diet is added processed sugar, ultra-processed grains, and seed oils. Seed oils are the top source of calories, like soybean, canola, sunflower, vegetable. Seed oils were created actually by John D. Rockefeller as a byproduct of oil production, engine lubricant. And he lobbied to have these seed oils consumable for human consumption. Well, seed oils are cheaper, but they're highly inflammatory to your body. Understand this, the food industry is not trying to kill people. They're just trying to make food cheap and addictive. Addictive, make more profits. The food industry pays 11 times more for foundational nutritional research than the NIH. The ultra-processed foods hijacks our satiety signals and our biology. Hence, we want to eat more. We never feel satiated. We never feel full. High fructose corn syrup causes you to want to eat more. Is this making you angry? I hope so, because it makes me very angry. And that's where I want to just dive in to help people. I want to inform them, of a way that can help them get better and not fall into the trap of becoming a customer in the medical industry. But I get it. Many times people don't want to hear it because they either need to make a change or they move into a denial. It's one or the other. And I understand because I've lived for a long time, years ago, in denial of different situations. And if I faced the truth, then I either had to make the decision to make a change or live in the denial of it. And many times I wasn't ready to make a change, so I moved into denial. So I get it. But I have to shut my mouth and not jump in, because I want to jump in and tell people, oh my God, there's a better way. There's better answers for you. But they're not always welcomed, sadly. So how can I make these bold statements about the medical and food industry? For one thing, it's something I have been educating myself on for the past 45 years when I had my first health issue. I'm studying this constantly. I'm researching, I'm reading, I'm following doctors, following some research, whatever. I'm learning, constantly learning. But I do go back to the basics of eat food the way God created it. But the other reason why I can make this bold statement is because I recently listened to two whistleblowers expose the medical and food industry. And those two whistleblowers are named Callie and Casey. Callie and Casey means they're brothers and sisters. Well, Casey was a surgeon educated from Stanford, but she walked away from the career because of what she was witnessing. Callie, her brother, works for the government agencies and the food industry. He walked away because his sister was able to open his eyes to truth. And now he's exposing the food and governmental agencies as she is exposing the medical industry. But don't believe me. Take a listen yourself. I've provided the link below so that you can listen to the testimony of Callie and Casey talking about what they've experienced and what they're blowing the whistle on. And it's pretty intense. And it is long, because I'm going to forewarn you of that. So I did take it in bite-sized pieces, but it is well worth taking your time to listen to it. So you'll find the link below. I highly, highly recommend you take that time to listen to their whistleblowing testimony. It's called How Big Pharma Keeps You Sick. It says whistleblowers Callie and Casey Means expose Big Pharma, co-opted government agencies, and the food industry to poison America and keep us sick. Casey is the co-founder of Levels, a health technology company with the mission of reversing the world's metabolic health crisis. She received her BA with honors and MD from Stanford University and was previously served on Stanford faculty. She left a successful career in traditional medicine to devote her life to tackling the root cause of why Americans are sick. And then her brother Callie is an advocate whistleblower about the corruption of the food and pharma industry. And he's the co-founder of an organization called TrueMed. It's a company that enables Americans to purchase healthy food and exercise. So these two individuals really shed a lot of light on what I've been following for a long time. And the problem is because I live in the health and wellness realm of life. So I'm listening to naturopathic doctors or functional medicine doctors. That's where I live. And this information was not necessarily getting out into the realm of the population of people. If you don't listen or follow or believe in naturopathic doctors, you're not going to listen to this. So what is fascinating with Callie and Casey is they are exposing it. I mean, she was a traditional medical surgeon, and she's now exposing what this industry is doing to people. And so finally, I think it's getting out into the realm of the world and the population of people listening to what we're being deceived with. So truly take some time and listen to this interview. And then if you have questions or you yourself would like to make some lifestyle changes for a healthier you and a healthier family, then let's talk, let's chat. There's a link below to schedule a time with me. And if today's not the time to make those changes, when is it? Put yourself and your family in a place where the food and medical industry are not allowed any longer to make you sick. Well, friends, thank you for taking the time to listen. I am glad to be back. I'm glad to be doing my weekly recordings. And I'm just so glad that you're here. Be blessed and know that you are loved. God bless. Thanks for listening. Thank you, my friends, for taking the time to listen to my podcast. I hope you found it uplifting and encouraging, and that it guides you to having peace, love, joy, and health in your life. If you would like more information on my coaching programs, then go to my website, reginasanchez.com, where you can see the services I offer to give you a fresh start after trauma. You can also find my book, Can I Have Your Heart, Daddy, on Amazon. It is my personal journey back to the heart of my Heavenly Father. Be blessed, be encouraged, and know that you are loved.